This episode of The Gourmet Goober is brought to you by SoFoodie. That's Foodie with a PH. SoFoodie is the go-to platform that highlights the stories and showcases the talent of brothers and sisters who are innovating and creating in the world of food and beverage. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at SoFoodie. That's Foodie with a PH. Or sign up for their email at sofoodiewithaph.com. Everyone, this is JJ Outlaw.
Hi, this is T Outlaw.
And we are the co-hosts of the Gourmet Goober podcast. We are back. You can always check us online at thegourmetgoober.com. I'm always on the Twitters. That's where you can find me the most often at JJ Outlaw and on Instagram at Gourmet Goober. And as always, we open up every show by me introducing my co-host, that dude, okay, the Dark Desperado.
That's right. Say it with me.
Big Daddy, a.k.a. T Outlaw. How's it going?
I am doing quite well. You can also call me the Iceman Cometh, the Black Icicle.
What was my nickname that I came up with?
Hell if I know.
No. We came up with it yesterday. It was like, what's it? The Frango Princess?
The Frango Princess?
It was something cute. And I was like, I want that nickname for the podcast. And now it's gone. Just that quick.
Yeah, you shot that one. Just shot that down with no. Okay.
All right. Where can they find you online?
You can find me, T Outlaw, the Dark Desperado, the Black Icicle. Yeah, you can find me, all those guys. You can find me on Twitter at T Outlaw, TOUTLAW. Once again, I can spell. And on Instagram at T Outlaw Chelsea Wells, like the movie.
So we are hanging out on a Monday, recording for Tuesday. Snowed in like much of the United States.
Ice, baby.
Oh my God. How much snow is out there right now?
On the ground, 6-7 inches. Like, how much has accumulated? Oh, we're barking a foot.
Yeah. At least a foot outside, because it's been snowing forever, it seems. So hopefully you guys are in a place that's warm, that's safe. For us, we're just kind of chilling, getting over our trauma of taking our dog to training yesterday. More on that in a moment. Drinking what is this that we're drinking?
Coffee and Coke.
Yes, Coca-Cola came out with a new Coke with coffee, and we thought we'd try it. No, we're not getting sponsored from Coke. Although, if you would like to give us that sweet, sweet money, Coca-Cola, we'd be willing to talk. I'm just saying. We got the sponsors now, so hey.
Hell, you hook me up with a lifetime supply or some kind of, merchandising kickback. I'm willing to talk.
No. I don't think you need a lifetime supply of anything with caffeine. You don't handle it as well as I do.
What?
Remember when we went to Miami for our honeymoon and I introduced you to Cuban coffee and I drank it and I was fine and you just had like a little teeny tiny dimmy toss and you were awake for almost 2 days.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on now. Hold up. Wait a minute. That wasn't just like, first of all, when you get coffee in a shot glass, that should have told me the first thing. But two, that wasn't just straight up a little bit of coffee and caffeine. That was like devil's juice.
Oh my God. It was traditional Cuban coffee with like coffee, and it has like the hit of sugar and the crema that forms when you mix it. I mean, I drink mugs of Cuban coffee. You know that. Like, seriously, it does. Me and then my younger brother who drives a truck, who I introduced it to him, we can hit it no problem. Big Daddy is just like, he like does the cross whenever he sees me make it in the office with his finger. It's like, stay back.
No, this lady will get up in the morning and start drinking this coffee, and I could be in another room dead asleep, and it wakes me up just by the smell, this aroma.
Of course, I drink coffee strong enough that wakes you up.
Yeah, it's like
I do it for your protection, though.
And I
Y'all don't
that.
ever want to see me not caffeinated.
Appreciate it.
You do not. It.
Yeah, if she gets keyed up, oh, the neighborhood feels it.
It's like the Hulk, kind of.
Hulk smash.
But not like, it's not like Professor Hulk, from like Endgame, Marvel's Avengers Endgame, that Hulk. It's like Lou Ferrigno's Hulk from the 70s that just had no chill. That is me without my caffeine daily.
With the bad haircut?
Well, yeah, actually, if I don't wear my bonnet at night, yeah.
Okay. I'm not getting...
Let's not go down
that path at all.
So anyway, we hope that you are in a place, dear listeners, that you're safe and dry and free from the snow. But if you're not, hopefully you can chill and hang out with us for a bit as you warm up wherever you are. Hopefully you're in a place that can do that. And outside of the snow, Big Daddy, how was your week? Do you want to talk about the trauma of dog training yesterday, or suffice to say, our dog is not on the act right program and we can just move on?
Here's the quickest rundown of my week as I'm still in rehab. The best way I can explain it to you was dog training. 1, this dog is straight up crazy. Every once in a while, he'll get in front of, like, these little girls, like, who trains them. And he'll, like, kind of like, put down his whiskers and be on the Act Right program. Will look like he's wearing a bow tie. No, he basically decided he was going to be social yesterday.
Well, to be fair, okay. So our trainer, and this is the segment, if you're new to the show, we usually share our week. And we were going to record yesterday, to be fair, but we were so traumatized over fighting the snow and the craziness of getting our dog trained, getting him reacclimated to training, because we had to take a little bit of a break for adulting reasons. And then our trainer, who was expecting a baby, she had her baby. So we had to move to a second trainer that he knows, but he kind of doesn't know, like, as much as the first trainer. And he is the world's friendliest, doofiest dog. Like, if he meets you, I know you don't want me to put that in the atmosphere. You want me to say that our dog is, like, mean and vicious and all of that. Braxton is none of those things.
As much as he drags me along, yeah, he's vicious.
No, he's a doof. He's a meatball. And so he, of course,
went all meat to Pirello.
Yes, we had training usually by ourselves, and there were 2 other dogs, and there's a new dog trainer, and he wanted to greet everybody, and he went buck wild. And the other 2 dogs, who, ironically enough, are perfectly chill, are looking at us like, I don't know who these people are. Like, it was so bad that one of the dog owners, like, set up a barrier so our dogs couldn't look at each other.
It's like, I don't know your dog. Like, your dog has some issues.
Our dog got put in quarantine. Like, I was traumatized to the point where Big Daddy had to calm me down after the dog was calmed down. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. And you're just like, he's a dog. They do that.
Your dog went bomb sniffing dog.
He went a little cray-cray. And then he decided he didn't want the treats that we brought. So we had to get new treats for the training. It was a mess.
So you went bougie too.
Yeah, our dog is hella bougie. Mm-hmm. Which, let me just say, we pay a lot for these treats. Because it's part of, like, this box that you get. Which I'm not going to name the box because I'm working out something separately.
Okay.
So I don't want to potentially mess up a new podcast in the works, but needless to say, Braxton was not feeling what was in the box this month. So the lady was like, yeah, give him treats. And I offered him a treat, and Braxton was like, nah, I want bologna instead. The one time I don't have bologna on me.
Yeah, all this money that we pay for these specialized, like, healthy treats.
Nah, he just wants a box and chew paper. And yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, I ain't taking this. And like, get your little treats, but get your little sweet potatoes. No, I'm gonna take bologna and trash or whatever, like, you have at the ready, but not this, the money that you put into these treats.
Yeah. So no treats, no rawhide, no poor lamb chop.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you still in mourning about lamb chop?
Yes. Okay. Okay. One of the major things that have happened this week, if you listen to the podcast, you know that we have been forced to adult lately as part of the deal with home ownership. So,
of which we suck at.
Which we terribly suck at. So, before last week's podcast, we had to install a toilet, which was fabulous, but we learned that you have to make sure you have all the pieces because not having a working toilet in your house is kind of a bummer. And hell of embarrassing. So this week, in the middle of the snowmageddon that we are now facing, our furnace, which is also hella old, decided to just give out. And so the switch. What was it? The switch?
The lights? You are really bad at this adulting thing, right?
Well, I wasn't there. I was in a hotel. You were at the guy.
Yes. The answer to the question was yes. During Super Bowl weekend, what happened was it got really cold, as with a lot of America. And the furnace was having problems working. So it decided when it wanted to work, which was almost never. And we had to have someone come look at. Well, we had to have two companies because the first one ghosted us.
Yeah, the first one flaked out on us, which really sucked.
Yeah, then the second guy was going to have me go down there and look it up, of which I know absolutely nothing. But yeah, finally the guy came out and it was the igniter that was bad. So he had to put in another ignition switch or the igniter.
Yeah. So it meant that we were back in a hotel while that was getting fixed. Because it happened on a weird time that no one could come out because it was just ridiculously below zero in some cases. So it was just hella cold.
Super Bowl weekend.
A Super Bowl weekend, yeah. So yeah, these last couple weeks have just been a lot. A lot. But we survived, I have to say. We survived.
We survived. We're in one piece.
Yes. And the furnace is back to working, which is fabulous.
And now we're going to wait for the next thing to go bad.
Shh, don't put that out there.
Okay, sorry. Did not mean to put that in the ether.
We're not putting that out in the universe. But you know what? It wasn't all bad, though. It wasn't all bad timing. So there were some bright spots. I don't know about you, but my favorite new bright spot that came out of being, moved to another location and forced to kind of get my mind off of things is my new obsession with Marvel's WandaVision.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I am in love with WandaVision.
Let me just do me.
Okay.
Because this is just me in the short.
Okay.
I would like to believe that I am a fairly, decent alpha guy. I'm not a comic book hero guy, but I do okay. But okay, my wife's knowledge of comic books and or the Marvel universe, not only the regular Marvel universe, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe and everything around it is like an education to me. She literally is educating me on every inch of how many movies have Has Marvel dropped?
There's been, I believe, 23 Marvel movies.
This is like Bond size.
Well, okay, 23 movies within the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
If you count, like, Marvel properties that doesn't quite fit into that narrative, there's been way more than that. From, like, Blade, which I think is the first official one, to, like, the different properties at Fox and Sony and things like that.
If you could literally look at my face right now, I look like crackhead Pookie.
Not crackhead Pookie.
I'm sitting here like, huh? I literally, like, up until marrying this woman, I didn't know the difference between Marvel and DC. So you can go ahead and strike me down first, but that's how deep I was.
I had no idea of that before we got married.
Is this a grounds for divorce or something?
Well, we've been together for almost 16 years, so I guess there's nothing I can do about it now.
Well, damn.
I married you even though you're a Bulls fan. What more do you want? You
were following the rings, baby. You want to get married? You want some rings?
We're not going to that again.
Rings.
No. We're not having that conversation. We don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Space Jam.
So anyway, if you are not familiar with WandaVision, first of all, get your life. It is so good. And the thing I love about the show. Okay, wait. Let's stop. For those of you who have not seen WandaVision, I'm going to explain what it is, and then I think it might be a good idea to put a spoiler alert.
Okay, while we're at it, I think this is the part of the show where I check out.
No, because you got engaged with the two once I explained it, right?
I'm still, like, I have to, like, get my notes out for this.
But the thing is, you know who Wanda and Vision are.
Yeah, by virtue of the Avengers.
Movies that I have forced you to watch.
Yes, I have seen, like, all the Avengers movies.
Okay, so if you've been listening to our podcast for a long time, you know that I'm a blurred. In fact, one of our first episodes is called Hood Snacks Assemble, and it talks about my journey into seeing Marvel's Endgame on opening night and all the crap that we went through to make sure that we saw it. From strategically planning my bathroom break to trying to escape my former jobs and meeting with the executive director so I can catch the train on time so I can make it home in time to see the movie. Okay. To even planning when to get the tickets and having them on reserve. I am a Marvel nerd. I've always been a Marvel nerd. My dad is a huge Marvel fan. That's why I learned from it. And don't get me wrong, I do like DC properties, but I'm a Marvel girl. So, in a nutshell, there are 23 movies in the Marvel Universe, and this is their first sanctioned television show that fits into that. So, basically, there are two people. There's Wanda Maximoff, if you've not seen the show, and she's, oh God.
A witch.
Well, not in this version. She's not a witch. Well, okay, I guess we can call her a witch.
Okay. Because this is after Endgame.
Yeah, but we can't say the other word.
The big M?
The big M. We can't say the word mutant.
You said it.
Well, okay. Do I tell this? Okay, in the Marvel... Basically, there are two Marvel characters, Wanda and Vision. And Wanda's a real human being. Vision is like a synthezoid. It's like an android with human feelings and shit.
Like AI.
Yes. And they work together in the Avengers. They fall in love. And in-game, something happens to one of the characters. And then that character reappears again in WandaVision. And it's weird because it's like, it starts off, it's like a takeoff on classic television shows. And then around episode 4, you start to see what's really happening. And it's like creepy and fun as hell. And it's like a riddle wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in the enigma. It's so good. Oh my God, it's so good. And I have been obsessing over it since it started, and I've been binge watching. I've had time as we stayed at the hotel on different things to kind of go back and watch over the other episodes. Going into the spoiler time. So if you're listening, spoiler. So the show is based on a very classic comic book that's called The House of M, where basically Wanda loses her mind and creates her own reality. And so you see this play out in real time, where her reality is a television show, and then there's people watching the television show and wondering what the hell is going on. And the people that are other characters are actually people that she controls. Or so you think. They want you to think that. So every episode, they've been building on what's going on. And then this last episode is what I really lost my mind and dragged you into it. Was when they introduced her brother. Because the thing about Wanda, both in the movies and in the comic book, Wanda is the stand-in. Let me take a step back. Historically, a lot of Marvel characters have stood in for various real-world problems. So, for example, the X-Men, which was created by Stan Lee, co-created by Stan Lee, they were mutants, and a lot of their characteristics they can't help, and their foibles dealing with society was to stand in for racism. So you see, the thing I really love about Marvel books is that they take very real-world problems, and you see them personified in a character. Wanda's character historically has dealt with a lot of grief. Over time, she's lost her brother. Her brother's died. In the movies, her brother's died. Her lover has died. She lost her parents. She's alone, right? And so, in House of M, you see her have this massive nervous breakdown and what happens after that. So, going back to the spoiler, this last episode, in the movie, several movies ago, her brother Pietro died. They brought him back, but he's cast with another person who has also played the Pietro character in a different movie franchise. And I have lost my mind because going back to the word that you can't say, mutant.
The big M.
The big M. Mm. I'm excited because this might bring in mutants to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And tie everything together.
And I'm just obsessed.
So it's kind of like comic book guy from The Simpsons. Totally epic story.
Yes. This is bigger. My obsession with this is bigger than Masked Singer obsession, guys. And you guys know how big I was obsessed with Masked Singer.
You were also totally obsessed with Watchmen.
But this is different than Watchmen. And you
yes, it is.
And you hated Watchmen. You hated the Watchmen movie. I don't think you'd actually hate the television show. The television show with Regina King is amazing.
And Regina King was absolutely, positively badass in Watchmen. Still, Watchmen, too much for me.
The reason why this character is so big, in a nutshell, once upon a time, Marvel was just a comic book company. And it got to the point where people didn't read a lot of comic books. And they needed to make money.
Like me.
So what they did was they had all these badass characters, and they're like, we're going to sell them. But they didn't sell them all to the same company. So some people brought, like Sony looked at Marvel's characters and go, oh, we're taking Spider-Man, and take all of those characters. And then Fox looked at Marvel's character list and like, we'll be taking X-Men, and took those characters. And then eventually Marvel made a deal with Disney, and all the rest of the characters was in the Disney camp. So eventually it came time for them to create this universe, okay? And what happened was Marvel started making their movies, and they were badass. And we're like, we're going to be like the comic books and connect all of these stories together into one big story. And then Sony looked and like, we want some of that. So they negotiated with Sony, and eventually they took the Spider-Man character, and they were able to put that in a Marvel movie. And they shared those stories. But now there's the X-Men with the mutants. And Fox was like, well, we made a shitload of money off of that, and we want none of yours. So it comes out that there are certain characters that are with both franchises, but Fox made it so, okay, so you can mention this person, but the word mutant belongs to us, and everything related to mutants, that's our stuff, okay? So we have to pretend that this group of people that were integral and they work together in comic books, they actually don't exist on the same plane. Okay, fine. So for most of the characters, about 90% of the story, not a problem. But then there was Wanda and her brother Pietro, who were technically mutants and part of the X-Men, but also worked with the Avengers. What to do? Well, Fox said, okay, that's okay. You can have them. We already have Quicksilver, the brother, Pietro, with us. Just do not say in any way, shape, or word the word mutant, or we'll come after you. Fine. So they came up with a different story with Marvel's Disney version versus the Fox version. Now, further down the line, Disney, because they made a shitload of money, was able to buy out Fox. So now they own the franchises. They own all of it except for Spider-Man. So everyone who is a geek is like, yay, now they can play in the same sandbox. But they haven't really said how they're going to all join together in the same sandbox. Except for WandaVision. And when they brought the character, because they already killed off in the Marvel Disney version, this character. But this character still exists in the Fox universe. So they're like, okay, well, we'll just pick up this dude and drop him off in the Disney character. And boom, now there's mutants. So that's what we're all, in a nutshell, excited about. And I know that makes no sense to you because you look confused.
All I know is sports. That'd be me. All I know is sports, and this literally is like worse than learning, like the triangle offense.
But I tried to simplify it as simple as I can.
You can't teach stupid people.
So, literally, you guys, Big Daddy's asleep.
I'm not asleep.
No.
Hey, I have this coffee over here.
When this happened, Big Daddy was asleep.
Okay.
I'm watching WandaVision because he's not into it as I am. I realized that they plucked little Pietro Quicksilver from one tin box and dropped it in the Disney box. Boop. I go insane and I wake you up and I'm like, oh my God, there's a mutant. And you're like, what? What is a mutant? What is a Quicksilver? Why should I care? This does have to do with, I thought you couldn't say the word. All of that. So anyway, I've just been obsessing over that for the last few weeks since our last podcast.
Okay. Harder than the pro style offense in the NFL. And everything I need to know about WandaVision. Okay, so when does Deadpool jump in this bad boy?
Oh, okay.
Ah, damn.
No. Okay. Because Deadpool is sort of a funny story. Because Deadpool technically is a Marvel character, right?
Yes.
But Deadpool also fell into that, oh, we're going to buy this property. So he's not technically in the universe, although they said with the third movie that's coming out, Deadpool 3, they're going to drop him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe sandbox. But they're not really sure how they're going to do it. But remember when we saw Deadpool and I was explaining to you that it was the same idea where they had characters from the X-Men. And he even said, you're not allowed to say the X-Men word. They never referred to them as the X-Men. In fact, teenage Negasonic, I forget her name, but the girl, the badass girl that was in the movie, she actually is an X-Men character, but she has different powers because, again, Fox is like, we're not allowing you to mix that with the franchise. Because we made all this movie money with us.
I'm so confused by this entire conversation. I'm starting to wonder, like, because of clearances and whatever, like, are we even allowed to say the word mutant on this podcast?
Well, technically we can.
Okay. Good.
And the thing is, now that Disney owns almost every Marvel character except for the ones associated with Spider-Man.
Do we have to pay Disney?
That is a good question because one thing we have learned in our short lifetimes about Disney, they do like to sue.
Worse than Scientologists.
Remember what happened? Okay, remember what happened in college?
Yes, I do.
You guys, we went to the same college. I think you long-time listeners know. And I was a dorm resident assistant. Big Daddy, when we met, was actually my student. No, we didn't date while we lived in the same dorm. We waited until afterwards before we realized we liked each other.
She wrote me up.
I did write him up. You broke policy. It's not my fault. Look, we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But
Bulls, man.
We decided our floor, our both of our floors were brother-sister floors. And we decided that we were going to paint a mural. So your floor was going to paint a mural featuring Warner Brother characters.
Correct.
Warner Brothers gave no shits about it whatsoever. They didn't care.
They were cool.
The second that we decided that we were going to paint a mural featuring Disney characters, we got a cease and desist letter from the Walt Disney Company. Now, mind you, I still don't know how they found out. This was before the internet. It's not like we emailed them. Dude, this was a long time ago.
Somebody snitched.
Somebody snitched. Because they threatened to sue the university, the dorm, and me if we proceeded with that. So my floor had no mural. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers are like, yeah, go ahead. Roadrunner flipping people off. We don't care. Have fun. Meanwhile, Minnie Mouse literally holding a sign that says bathroom here. If you do that, we will sue you. So technically, to answer your question, I'm not really sure if they'll sue us if we mention them. But going back to your question about Deadpool.
Yes.
Since they own about all of those characters, they can do with it whatever they want. However, I don't think that they can actually put him in it, only because there's one problem with Deadpool with the rest of the characters.
He talks a lot.
It's an R-rated franchise. Like, they're not going to stream it on Disney Plus. What are you going to do? They don't put R-rated movies on Disney Plus.
Okay, so I never looked into this. Is every Marvel movie PG or PG-13?
Yes.
Okay. Except Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool is a Marvel movie, but it's not part of the universe. But yeah. But you know what? Marvel has had R-rated movies before, but they're not part of the universe. Like Blade.
Yeah.
Blade was the first Marvel movie that was released with a major character. Shout out to Wesley Snipes. And it was hella rated R. Like people's head sliced off and everything.
I loved it. That didn't mean anything.
Loved it.
Of course you would.
And they're remaking Blade with Mahershala Ali. Yes.
Wait, Wesley get a little old for it?
Yeah.
Or did Wesley have to pay them taxes?
Shut up.
Okay. Just checking. I don't need Wesley coming to kick my ass.
Look, Wesley not coming to kick my ass, okay? They just did it with Mahershala Ali. I'm happy with that. So Blade will be part of it. And technically, Deadpool will be part of it. But what I'm thinking they're going to do is that Once Upon a Deadpool, which is a PG version of it, I think that's what they're going to stream.
Okay.
Like they're going to release a PG version of it.
I don't know if you could. Well, I mean, I know they can try to make a PG-esque Deadpool in the MCU, but.
Well, they've already made like a PG-13 version of it, remember?
And
when they did Deadpool 2 and they took out all the F words and everything.
That was barely covered. Like, Deadpool, as I have seen it, really doesn't function unless you have Deadpool. Like,
well, yeah.
The essence of Deadpool and all the foulness that comes with it. It's like having a Judd Apatow movie that has nothing in it.
Like, literally, it'll be like an hour movie.
Yeah. It'd be like 15 like it's kind of like the age like, hey, suck this and kiss my whatever, my filth, filth.
It'll be like, what was we watching the other day that they edited heavily and we were laughing our asses off? Oh, The Breakfast Club, remember?
Oh yeah.
That great line where he tells him he's going to kick his dick in the dirt, and then they like changed it to something else. Like literally, it was like foul, filth, porn.
Can we say dick on this podcast?
I just did.
Okay. I'm gonna go wash my mouth out. But while I'm saying it, I'd like to say for the nice people like Coke, this is some real good gourmet shit.
Okay. Hey, before we wrap up this segment, which I think went way nerdier than I ever intended it to be.
Okay, blurred.
Look, I'm not ashamed of that. Okay. Y'all come from the pop culture as well as the food. This is pop culture, okay? Get your life and watch WandaVision. It is great. I have told everybody about it. I get so excited when like a friend online talks about it. And I'm like, yes, let's talk about this. Although with the last episode, I'm excited because they haven't mentioned it, but technically they did kind of sneakily introduce mutants into the MCU.
Did they really?
Yeah, because Wanda's kids were born with their powers, so that makes them mutants.
Okay, so they just didn't go through some radioactive spider. Okay.
So they didn't say anything, but technically her children are mutants, and it counts. Also, I'm excited because I think I know who the real bad guy of the movie is, the show, and it's driving me insane because I want them to say the name. Am I allowed to talk about it?
No, you are not. Save that for the next episode.
All right, fine.
One, we would also like to say happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there.
Yes, although this came out after Valentine's Day.
I can still say it. Happy President's Day.
That's true.
And while we're at it, and soon to be, by the time this comes out, we will also say happy Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah. Happy Fat Tuesday.
That's right. Because I'm
fat. C'est bon ton roulé.
Oui.
There is one cool thing I wanted to just say before I leave. We wrap up this segment. A friend of mine on a Facebook group, even though I've spoken many times that I loathe Facebook, I have made some really great connections on Facebook. And so occasionally there's groups that I still stay involved with, even though I try to stay off Facebook as much as possible. But for those of you who are fans like I am of the Great Food Truck Race, their new season begins on Sunday, March 7th, so it's starting now. And my friend Cornisha Monique, woohoo, will be a competitor in the race. So we'll be talking about that show a little bit later when they start. I think it'd be fun to live tweet her and just give some support, give some goober love, if you will. But yeah, I just found that out and we connected on our Facebook group, and I just think that is totally badass.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. And if you guys haven't seen the Food Truck Race, it's actually a really cool show. It's hosted by Tyler Florence, and basically with the Food Truck Race, it's kind of like this race across the country where they have different challenges, and there's different food trucks that are competing for who's the best. And it really is a great show. It's a great show, particularly if you have a love of food trucks. You know that we do. We've had the Food Truck Scholar actually on the show. So yeah, this should be an incredible time and a good time for representation. So I'm hoping that she does well. Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break to kind of get me off the WandaVision because I think we went way nerdier than I intended to be. When we come back, we have 3 really great stories that, of course, cross the divide between food and pop culture. And you are listening to the Gourmet Goober podcast. We will be right back. This episode of the Gourmet Goobers podcast is brought to you by FedEx Office. Whether if you're starting a business or have been running a company for generations, FedEx Office gives you the best way to print marketing materials, posters, signage, graphics, and so much more. With FedEx, creating, editing, saving, and even ordering, it's all fast and super easy, which is why the Gourmet Goober is teaming up with FedEx Office to bring our listeners 30% off your next order of $100 or more. Just go to podgo.co/FedEx. That's podgo.co/FedEx for 30% off your next order. FedEx, the world on time. Hey everyone, we're back. We're JJ Outlaw.
And the Dark Desperado.
Oh my gosh, you are so crazy with that. But we're back with a new episode of the Gourmet Goober. And we are with our segment, the What's Eating Us. That's where we talk about the intersection of food and pop culture. And this week we have 3 really cool stories that we couldn't wait to share with you. One is something that I know will be a cause of celebration for many, many, many people. And that is the announcement from none other than McDonald's that they are bringing back, that's right, people, the high C orange lava burst. That's going to be returning soon to the McDonald's. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Here we go.
So, in a nutshell, there's certain drinks that are a staple at McDonald's. Of course, we all know that historically, and it's a proven fact, that McDonald's Coca-Cola itself, the drink, tastes different because of the way they process it at a McDonald's than other places. But the high C orange lava burst, it's been a staple at McDonald's like forever, at least more than 60 years. In fact, I recently found out that they debuted it back on the menu in 1955. So what happened was, in 2017, for some reason, they decided to replace the sweet orange drink. And in its place, they put something that's called Sprite Tropic Berry, which the Coca-Cola company produced just for McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
So they're thinking, hey, you're going to get this new drink. You can only get it at McDonald's. And then people were like, hell to the mofo no.
Correct.
So since 2017, there have been a massive social media campaign where people have voiced their displeasure. There have been petitions. There have been people calling the company. And finally, McDonald's was like, dude, we've had enough. And so they very publicly announced this week that they're going to restore High C to its soft drink roster. They even, get this, okay, there's such a demand over when they're going to hand over the drink. You can actually go to a website that they created. It's called McFinder.com, where you can track the arrival of High C at your own McDonald's restaurant.
Yay!
And according to the webpage, people can start looking for it beginning on Monday, February 15th. So by the time this podcast rolls around, if you're not buried in snow like we are, technically, you could hopefully go to your local McDonald's and start seeing it. However, they promised it to be available nationwide by the summer, and they're going to be slowly rolling it out. So, what do you think about that? Are you celebrating the return of the High C orange lava burst?
Am I celebrating?
Have you ever had it?
Yes, I have.
It's like hella sweet.
It is hella sweet. There was also something that I remembered, and I'm not trying to like jump off the subject, but in the same vein, McDonald's has also decided this is their time of year. They're going to bring back, for quote unquote, the limited time only, the, of course, Shamrock Shake.
Okay.
And the McFlurry Oreo with mint.
Okay.
But in terms of the reason I bring that up is, well, because, you know, we're not that far from St. Patrick's Day. But with the High C, yes, there has been such a demand that people were like literally clamoring, as you will, for the High C that everyone like got all excited. And one of the things I remember growing up was there's this funny little hack. I don't know why I remember this hack, but what they used to do in the springtime or the summer is that they used to take orange high C, and if the machine was still working, because you never know if the machine will work, mix that with a vanilla milkshake.
Really?
Yes. And see the magic that happens.
I have never heard of that. That's
a region thing.
Was this just something they did with you? Could you ask for it? I'm serious. I never knew that.
Yeah, it was just one of those random things they did during the summer just to mess around. Take the high C orange burst and mix it with a vanilla or strawberry milkshake. Go crazy and see what happens.
Well, first of all, that is insane, and I never knew that. Although that sounds hella good because of the fact that it's that just sounds like it'd be drinking like an orange sherbet.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah. But I actually learned about this going back to what I said in the last segment, because even though I loathe Facebook, there's still several Facebook groups that I'm involved with that I've made some connections, both for the podcast and for other things, that has really been a big deal. And I didn't want to lose those connections. So I still log on at least once or twice a week just to kind of check and see what the board is talking about and everything.
Facebook just doesn't like you.
There's so many reasons why I'm anti-Facebook, but we're going to move on. But my whole thing about this is all of my foodie groups that I'm involved with, people were losing their motherfucking minds. And they were talking about why they're such huge fans, that this is something their kids like. I honestly didn't drink a lot of it when I was growing up because the Happy Meal, my mother was the rare times we did get Happy Meals, they didn't want us to have the sugary drinks. So I admit, even though I like the high C orange lava burst, it's not something that it's would drive me insane to lose. I haven't craved it, but there were some people who were near tears when they were talking about it in these groups because they're just dude, I've been drinking this since I was a kid. I drank it with my grandfather. This is such a huge thing. So let me ask a question.
Yes.
Is there anything at a restaurant that if they got rid of, you would just be so miserable that you would just demand to get it back? I was just wondering because obviously high C orange is not it for me. But, if they didn't bring back the Shamrock Shake, I need at least one Shamrock Shake a year. That's my personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I admit I would be hella bummed if they didn't do that. But what about you? Is there anything that they could bring back that if they just got rid of tomorrow? If they said no more McRib ever, would you be storming, the McDonald's corporate office in Chicago?
Yeah, would I storm the McDonald's? No. It would be sorely missed. But since it's always comes and goes, and you only eat a McRib once or twice during the time it's there.
Right.
Then, yeah, I could move on. Now, granted, I have also been the person who, missing the McRib was a thing. When Popeyes used to have these spicy chicken nuggets. That's right, chicken nuggets, not so much tenders. When they stopped doing that, I started a letter writing campaign. At least I tried. Also, I don't know why I have this thing about when the nice people at White Castle, when they pulled back, the chicken rings was cute and all, but when they used to have chicken nuggets, I loved them. But when they got rid of the corn dogs, the little mini corn dogs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I was so mad.
You were bummed for weeks.
I was throwing stuff. I'm walking around. Every time I go to a White Castle, I'm so when y'all gonna bring them back? Come on now. Come on, when you gonna hook me up with the mini corn dogs? You can't find mini corn dogs everywhere. This is wrong. I tried a letter writing campaign. They didn't talk to me back. I wasn't feeling that. Also, say for the people at Burger King, once way back in the day, y'all had something called Burger Buddies. Now, I know y'all brought something back or kind of close, but no, I remember the original Burger Buddies like in the 80s and early 90s. Burger Buddies there was the shizness right there. I was missing Burger Buddies. I'm still missing Burger Buddies. It was like these little bunch, not like White Castle, like sliders. I'm talking about these little, tiny little burgers. I used to pop those things like they were pass dispensers. I loved them Burger Buddies. But yes, once again, now I've gone back to my adulting presence. Yes, there are a few things that I still am looking forward to having them bring back. But also, would you like to bring, like, keep the milkshake machine? Like, work on keeping that regulated, keep that working. I know we talked about.
But you know what? I at this point, I accept that a broken milkshake machine is just part of the McDonald's experience. Just kind of like, every Bob's Big Boy, you see the little statue of the kid holding the burger.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that. It's just part of your time there.
It's not funny.
Oh, no, it's not.
No.
And trust me, I've spent many a childhood and teenage years feeling disappointed knowing that machine is not working.
Yeah, it's like going to Steak and Shake and not getting the shake.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like finding a unicorn when you find it works. I was thinking there's not too many things that I miss, but I have to admit, when Taco Bell canceled what was known as their quesarito,
okay,
and the quesarito, it's sort of like a burrito, and it has like a layer of cheese, and then it has like seasoned beef, although I usually got a steak. It had a chipotle sauce, sour cream, and then seasoned rice in it. It was a monstrosity. It had tons of calories. I'm pretty sure that it does not even count as Mexican in any stretch of the word or Tex-Mex.
Fair.
But nevertheless, it was cheesy and seasoned, and it was just so good. And I admit, I shed a tear or two when they decided that they're not going to offer the quesadilla. When they took a bunch of stuff last summer off their menu.
I think I do remember you shedding a few tears about that.
But here's the thing. They didn't really get rid of it.
Okay.
So you can order a quesarito, but you can't drive up to them and order it. The secret to the quesarito is if you go to their website or you go to their app, and this is true, guys, and then you place an order for the ingredients and everything in the quesarito, they will make you one. You just can't roll up and get one.
So it's on the secret menu.
It's like on the secret menu. So they kept it.
Okay.
So it's not truly the same thing, but you just have to put in the extra work and ask for a quesarito without the quesarito. But yeah, I forgot about the mini corn dogs. I didn't mean to bring up that trauma for you.
Yeah, I'm having a moment now. But yeah, I get it. I get it. It's like mini corn dogs. It's like, when you go to Arby's and order wait a minute. This is Arby's. Never mind. That means nothing. There's nothing at Arby's I missed.
Okay, we are not going into that. There's a very popular podcast that we're fans of, the Black Guys Who Tip podcast, who believe that no one actually goes to Arby's. And this has caused many a conversation between the two of us. And I have to say they're almost right. I've never gone out of my way to go to Arby's, but they exist and people go to it. They're building one down the street.
Yeah, Arby's makes money because it's one of the... Sorry, and this is no disrespect to Arby's, even though I guess I'm technically disrespecting Arby's. Arby's is kind of like where you go to where, okay, so they're the KFC, too far, or they don't have what you want. Every burger joint you find couldn't get, or you just kind of like...
It's the choice you have when there are no other choices.
Yeah, it's kind of like you run into like an Arby's, like literally if you literally run into the Arby's and you're like, well,
okay,
Arby's.
Yeah. And we've actually said that before to each other. It's just like, well, the Euro place is closed tonight. Okay, Arby's.
Yeah.
So now that we know Arby's will never be our podcast sponsor, our second story tonight It's actually one that Big Daddy and I went back and forth to talk about. As you know, it's Black History Month.
It is Black History Month.
And one of my favorite, all-time favorite celebrity chefs, Marcus Samuelsson, recently put out a cookbook that honors Black cooks and the soul of American cooking. It's called The Rise.
Okay,
in fact, I'm really excited because I personally am getting the book. And if you don't know who Marcus Samuelsson is, he is a tremendously incredible cook. He comes from an interesting heritage. He's Ethiopian and Swedish. He very famously has a restaurant in Harlem called Red Rooster. I have been following his work for years. I'm a huge fan of his. So this next story, I went back and forth, to be honest, whether or not we should talk about it. But it's one that has been getting a lot of attention lately on the timeline. So I thought it would be appropriate to mention it.
Okay. I would like to make sure that, because the Gourmet Goober is about to give you a dissertation. So please listen.
It is not a dissertation. It's just, I had a very visceral response.
Yes, you did.
So here's the thing. So Samuelsson dedicated his new book, which came out last fall, but again, it's getting a lot of attention now because it's meant to Black History Month. And the idea is the book itself, he dedicates it to some of his favorite Black chefs and how they've contributed to, African American cooking and just cooking in general in the United States. So the book is co-written with Osai Indolin. It plays tribute to Black chefs, and it has cooks on the rise who tell their stories, like Houston's Christopher Williams. So there's a lot of different people and profiles he includes in it. One of the profiles he includes is a woman by the name of Leah Chase. And if you've heard of that name before, she is the owner of the legendary restaurant in New Orleans called Dooky Chase.
Dooky Chase.
She's owned that restaurant for a number of years. It just to let you know how influential that movie is, and you may not know this.
Okay.
Tiana, the character in The Princess and the Frog.
Yes.
Her character is actually based on Leah Chase.
Really?
Yes. So she was the inspiration. The restaurant was the inspiration for Tiana, and The Princess and the Frog. She's the Disney princess who owned the restaurant by the end of the movie. She has been influential to feeding members of the civil rights movement. She believed in food as a tool for activism. So she's been an advocate for Black culture. Her restaurant was a meeting place for people like Rosa Parks. If you've seen the Beyonce masterpiece that is Lemonade, the video, she's actually in Lemonade. Beyonce's like, look, I'm honoring all the Black queens. I need you there. She's the one who's sitting in the throne. That's her, the older Black woman in the throne. She even, and this is hilarious, I always think this is funny, but she reminds me of my grandmother and my aunt, Verna. She used to do the same thing, where Obama one time very famously visited the restaurant, and I forget when, but it was when he was still president, right?
Barack Obama?
Barack Obama.
Okay.
And he visited the restaurant, and you go to Dooky Chase in part for her gumbo. Her gumbo is legendary. Okay. So Barack goes, he gets on the gumbo, he reaches for the hot sauce, right? She slaps the president's hand, just straight up, pow. She's like, don't you put hot sauce on my gumbo before you taste it. And that's how you do it, right?
Yes.
So, to be fair, he dedicates this book to the memory of Leah Chase, who passed away about a year ago, right?
This was Samuelsson, correct?
Samuelsson did.
Mm-hmm.
He was very close to her. And one of the things that he creates, there's a recipe in this book that he dedicates to her and her gumbo, right?
Correct.
But here's the reason why it's appeared a lot on my timeline and it's been getting a lot of attention. One of the key ingredients of gumbo, the base of it, is called roux. And in its most simple form, roux is a fat and a flour that you heat and you mix together. Most of the time, I use like an olive oil or a canola oil or peanut oil if you're legit. I had a family member who only used peanut oil.
Okay.
But basically, it is the heart. If okay,
It's
well,
the soul.
it's okay. Let me take that back. So the Holy Trinity, which is bell peppers, onions, and oh my god, it just slipped my mind. It'll come to me in a moment.
Celery?
Celery is the key component. It's the heart. Roux is the soul of a good gumbo. You start every good gumbo with the roux, right? And if you mess up the roux, as Big Daddy knows, because whenever I make gumbo, and I don't make it as often as I'd like, because of the fact that it tastes such a long time, you could be spending up to 20 minutes making a good roux. Because if you mess up this simple base of a fat and flour, it ruins the taste of the whole experience of eating the gumbo.
And we hear about it all the way throughout.
Okay, you hear about it because usually I'm the one standing alone in front of like the Dutch oven stirring the roux. Okay. And I admit that.
And you make it with love.
I make it with love, of course. But here's the thing. Samuel's old to Leah Chase. He makes his own, what he calls gumbo.
Correct.
But he leaves out the roux.
Was it just an omission, or did he just do that intentionally?
No, he did it intentionally.
Okay.
So people have been reaching out to Marcus and saying, dude, this is not a this is wrong. You're leaving out the roux. And he stands by his decision, although according to a recent interview in Bloomberg, he acknowledges that, look, I understand that people may not see this as a gumbo because of this. But in his defense, what he says is, I look at food from a flavor perspective. The gumbo has cleaner flavors without the flour, and you can taste the essence of the dish. And he mentions the red pepper, the seafood, and the spices. Now, people argue that part of the reason why you use the roux is it helps to thicken the sauce. And that is one reason of it as well. And so instead, he uses what's known as a gumbo filet powder, which what filet is basically, it's ground sassafras leaves as a thickening agent.
There are not many times you hear the word sassafras, so thus I'm now intrigued.
But, well, we have gumbo filet in the kitchen.
We do. I just keep shaking it in my Creole just to make it Creole.
But the thing is, he really argues that gumbo doesn't need it. And it's a cleaner flavor without the flour. And what is the basis of the roux. When I first read the story, Big Daddy can tell you, I was almost in tears. I was hurt that he did this. And I had to figure out why so many people were really shaken back. And so I went back to some of the Facebook pages, that this came up with, and this has repeatedly come up in the timeline as to why this is such a huge deal.
Yes. I came after this because I know that me, who has never physically made a gumbo in my life, I know that because the goober has told me on many occasions how the roux is made and how essential it is to the process of the gumbo, where it comes from. And I don't want to say it's like an offense to the ancestors, but it is part of the Holy Trinity of building your gumbo mix.
And he said that she would have slapped his hand too if he saw making gumbo without flour. So he acknowledges that.
Yeah.
And so he maintains that she would have loved it and she would have been for it. I argue that I disagree. And the reason why is you have to understand the nature of gumbo and where it comes from. Now, I learned how to make gumbo. My mother made gumbo a little bit when I was growing up, but I didn't really get into gumbo until I moved down south for graduate school. I got my master's degree. I don't talk about it a lot, but I got it from the University of Southern Mississippi. And I have a lot of friends and family members who live in Mississippi.
In the Delta?
In the Delta.
Okay.
And other places in Louisiana.
You from way down south.
Yes. My mom is part of the family. Is from way down south. And growing up as a kid, on the time that I did spend a lot of time in Mississippi, I would say I went every other summer up until I was about 11 or 12. And then I didn't return back to Mississippi full time until I went to graduate school for those few years. One of my biggest joys is watching my family members make the gumbo. In fact, I had one Cajun family member. His name is Uncle Zarin. He's passed on now. But he made an incredible gumbo, as his wife, my great aunt Eula May. And then my cousin Verna taught me the method I use to make gumbo today, which I make a chicken and andouille gumbo. And the thing is, on one hand, yes, the roux itself, people can argue it's just simply a flour and a fat. But the way I was taught and the recipe that I adapted, it's one that's been passed down literally from generations. So Verna's mama made it, her grandmother made it after that, and so on. And for many people, it's not just what's in it, it's the tradition we run it, right? Yeah. And I would challenge that when you think about the basis of it, in many cases, the story that was given to me was its origin in many cases where it was passed down basically from our ancestors who were enslaved, who didn't have the benefits of the resources that they had in the master's house, right? So sometimes they just had scraps and maybe oil and flour to put together meals.
Okay.
And be able to feed themselves. So there's a lot of history that goes into that recipe. And you could call it many things, but to take something that is so essential to its existence, you didn't make gumbo, you just made soup, basically. Which I know people would argue it's the same thing, but I'm sorry. I'm trying not to get overwhelmed because when I found out this yesterday, Big Daddy, I kind of, like I said, had a very visceral response about what that entails and why certain recipes, it's like he appropriated the recipe.
Okay.
To me, it's no different than, and the example I gave you yesterday, we were watching The Five Heartbeats a couple weeks ago. And if you guys haven't seen The Five Heartbeats, it's a great movie. It's an older movie. It was out, what, in the 80s?
Late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s. But it was about a group. It was a movie directed by a great director, Robert Townsend. And it was made to parallel the rise and fall of the Temptations with these childhood friends who got together and put together a very successful R&B singing group. There's a scene in the movie that actually played out many, many times in real life, where basically these great talented Black musicians, they had a song that they introduced. and they were working with the record company. The record company's like, oh yeah, this is the greatest thing ever. But we know what will take it over the top, right? And then they bring in this white group and they sang the song. And essentially, they stole the song.
They took all the color out of the song.
They took all the color and the flavor out of the song. And when I read the story, I was just like, this gives me no joy because I love Marcus Samuelsson. But it's literally like he just took every bit of heart out of the song or out of the food in order to make it something more quote unquote palatable for audiences.
Okay.
Because let's face it, like I said before, a good roux is something you can't rush. Because essentially, you apply heat to this fat and you add the flour. And you have to mix it and you stir it. And you stir it. And it takes time.
And it's a consistency that you have to keep an eye on the entire time.
Right. You can't walk away from roux. Okay? You can't. If the roux burns, you have to start all over again. If the roux doesn't get to that color, you just keep going until it gets to that color. So sometimes it's taking me 10 minutes to get a good roux. Sometimes it takes me, I think the longest it's ever been is like 30 minutes. And the best way I can explain it to you is my Uncle Zarin, my great Uncle Zarin, rest in peace. He said one thing to me one time when I was a little girl, and I never forgot this. He said, a good roux is kind of like love, right? Like love, you got to put heat on it. But you can't take your eyes off of it because if you leave it unattended, a good roux like love will burn, right?
I burn in love.
And if it burns, you have to start all over again because you can't use it. It's a mess.
Sounds like a bad dating app.
If you don't stir it, if you don't pay attention, if you don't put effort in your roux will never change color and you get to that luscious chocolate brown goodness that every good love needs, right? He's talking about black love. But
that's right. The hot black burning love.
You can apply it to everything. But he said, if you get your roux right, it's the basis of everything else that you build.
Okay.
So you can have friendship, you can be friends and everything else. But what holds it together is the roux. And I challenge that Marcus, in his effort to improve on a classic, he essentially took the heart out of something that maybe he shouldn't have. It's many things, Marcus, and it is. And he even said, you know what? Leah, if she tried it, she would love it. She's about evolving the flavor combinations. That's all true, maybe. Maybe you can taste the red pepper without the flour. But I dare say that by doing something like this and encouraging others to do something like this, they're missing out on an experience that really makes the history behind the gumbo what it is. You're taking the love out of it, just like my Uncle Zarin said.
Okay.
It'd be many things, but it's not gumbo, it's soup.
Well, let me take an alternative view of this. Without, as I was looking over the ingredients of Samuelsson's dish, I was wondering to myself if, without looking at, how other people make their gumbo, would you say that as Samuelsson put together this, adaptation that, anything he may have added or subtracted, would it have made it a necessity to have the roux?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically you're saying with the stuff that he added in, it also necessitated them having a section also about adding roux to it.
I would think that maybe he would want to, or maybe even I would even do a traditional gumbo and then his other one, and maybe gumbo in quotes or something.
Okay.
Because my fear is that people will have this and they'll make it thinking they made gumbo and they did not.
So basically, this
And
is like
it's
gumbo with asterisk.
right. It'll just take what the essence of gumbo is.
Okay.
Because part of the reason why I joke about complaining when I do the gumbo, but during that time, I remember watching my family members make the roux, and that was time to tell like the story behind it, or like this one time when they made gumbo, or it was a time to pass on traditions and story because you had that long period of time you're making a roux. So it's never just about the roux itself; it's about the tradition of cooking.
Mm.
And how in many cultures that use this pass on that information. And I say that you take that out, and it's a shame because it's in a book that's about Black cooks and the soul of American food. So why take out something that's so essential to that soul and rob maybe a next generation of knowing what that is? That's what makes me sad about it.
Okay. Let me also take a view that, and this is, I'm not trying to be lazy when I say this, because like I said, I have made shrimp creole. I've tried and attempted making jambalaya, but I've never made gumbo, and sure as hell have not made like the goober or any of my family and of yours. Would also be weird for me to say that since making the roux does take a great deal of practice, that maybe that the people that he was aiming this at were people who were not good with the practice of it.
No.
And thus, would you be willing to say that in today's date that some of the people who would be making this gumbo asterisk would, I don't know, not have that patience to practice it?
No, because I think historically one of the best things about Marcus's cooking and Marcus's recipes, and I've made them before, is the fact that he likes to challenge um, them to explore different cooking practices and things like that. And to be fair, he always takes he prides himself on using a new approach on traditional recipes.
Okay.
So that's always been part of Marcus's um, expertise, if you will. But I don't think it's necessarily about people losing time. I think honestly he's probably going for a different um, flavor note or flavor identity than gumbo traditionally has. And I get that. I totally get that. But I just dare say that there are certain recipes that, taken out of context, particularly because so much of this tradition has been lost for various reasons because of the age of the people. Like, let's face it, I don't know of many people who have grandmas and grandpas they can interact with right now. The aunties and uncles of our communities in order to watch them cook, particularly in the pandemic.
True.
You have to look at the dissolution of Creole culture as it happened during Hurricane Katrina and how many of those wars were forced out and they weren't allowed to come to their home. And as a resulting diaspora, some of those flavors and those traditions have been spread and wiped out.
And of course, not every recipe can be transferred correctly over Zoom.
And that's true as well. Like my mom, and I've talked about it many times, my mother makes the best stuffing, or no, dressing. And she doesn't write it down. I've been trying to get that recipe and I can't. God forbid if something happens to my mother, this is something that was taught to her by my great grandmother. It'll be gone. So I think there's something to be said about giving your own flavor notes and giving your own credence. I just maybe question it in the version in which he did it in a book about history, and then certainly without taking the context of the why behind the roux and the why behind why this is such essential cooking. You know, for me, he just took the hurt out of it.
Sure.
And I'm sure whatever he makes is amazing. He is an astounding cook. It is one of my top 10 bucket list things before I leave this earth to go and eat at Red Rooster. If this ever gets back to Marcus, I cannot tell you enough how much I love you. That's why me saying this really hurts, because I'm just thinking, I'm not really sure if this is the way that I would have went in telling Leah's story and keeping her legacy alive. Essentially, since her gumbo is so essential to who she is. So let's go on a lighter note to wrap things up. And that is a recent announcement that has been made by our former First Lady. And I say this, not the one who just left. I don't acknowledge her.
Okay. Shot.
But the real former First Lady, Miss Michelle Obama. So as you may know, Michelle Obama and President Barack Obama, they recently signed a deal with Netflix, the streaming service, in order to create programming that's designed to educate and uplift, kind of something similar to what Harry and Meghan has signed. And so they're coming out with their first show, and it's a culinary kids show called Waffles and Mochi.
I just like the name Waffles and Mochi. Matter of fact, like donkey. Waffles.
Exactly.
Waffles and Mochi.
So it's a 10-episode series. Each episode, I understand, it's about 20 minutes. It'll debut on March 16th on Netflix. And it'll star the First Lady. Get this. She's so cute. So she's going to be a friendly supermarket owner who hires two friends who want to become world-class chefs. One friend is a little puppet named Waffles. The other one, oh my God, it's so cute. It's a little puppet shaped like a mochi.
And explain for us, especially me who was very slow, what a mochi is again.
Well, mochi is kind of like a Japanese ice cream treat. It's rice based. Mm-hmm. It comes in different flavors. It's slightly chewy, but it's really, really good. And they're like little bowl shape. They're like little dumpling shapes.
Okay.
So you can fit one in the palm of your hand. In fact, if you Google Michelle's there's a picture of Michelle with waffle, and she's holding mochi in the palm of her hand. I'm sorry, I'm just like dying. This is so cute.
Okay, it does look like it could be made into a cartoon character.
Yes. So it's going to be puppets interacting with live action. The really cool thing is they'll have people ranging from Jack Black to Chef Jose Andres of the World Kitchen. They'll be traveling all over the world, and they'll be teaching kids about healthy eating and cooking and exploring different recipes. And I, for one, am psyched. I don't even have kids. Hell, we don't even have Netflix right now. I'm going to get Netflix so I can binge it. But it looks like it's just going to be so much fun. And how excited is this? The idea that they're putting something like this together.
No, I'm deeply excited because I just want to give kids like a view, all other than seeing cartoon violence or just things outside, because the world is scary right now.
Right.
But just giving them something to broaden their horizons, and not only the horizons of what they see every day, but also expand the horizons to a global view.
And I just think it's really, really fun. One, I love the idea. I wish they had something like this when I was a kid, because particularly for parents, and like you said, right now it's a scary world. Many kids can't leave their house, because of the Rona and how unsafe it is. And so to be able to explore different venues and at the same time learn about different flavors and different foods. We were talking about this the other day. There's a whole host of foods that I wasn't exposed to until I was older. And this is through no fault of my parents. I mean,
they did what they had.
Yeah, one thing I have to say, especially my dad. My dad was a construction worker. He was a cement mason for many years. And he often traveled to new locations for his job because he was very skilled at what he did. And whenever he interacted and he saw like a new food or something new, he would always bring it back so we can experience it. So I sampled things like cheese fudge and different sandwiches and things like that. And I'm very grateful. But, you know, there's still some limitations in places that he didn't have a chance to see and do and bring back to us. And so to be able to show this to children who maybe, like you said, homebound, and give them a safe way to kind of explore healthy eating choices and places to dream about and things like that, I am super excited. I know it's aimed at preschoolers. Realize that. I have no children, but I'll still watch it because I love puppets and everything. So I just think this will be a lot of fun. So what do you think? Is that something you think
would it be
be
something
big?
I would indulge in? Like, I would watch it just to see what different varieties and different cultures that they intersperse in this, because it just seems like it's just something fun you can bring the kids, and it'll be something, I would love to share with, some cousins and friends and other people, just because it's just there. It's just I just like to see and it involves something because food is a world language,
Right. Exactly.
and also just the fact that this is something that you can share with people, and especially through the eyes of children, because children, whether or not they like things or not, they'll give you their honest opinion. And I think, just having the ability to bring it forth in color and through youth, it actually might bring, something positive to the aspect.
I am just really excited. I think this is such a brilliant idea. Now, this is one of many projects that they've introduced and they'll be rolling out through a company that the Obamas created called Higher Ground, which I think it's kind of legendary in and of itself because if you think about it, there's never been, at least in my recent memory, although, well, I guess the Clintons, they claimed the Clinton Global Initiative, so they use their time outside the office for charity. And of course, um, you know, what's his name does Habitat for Humanity. President Carter.
President Carter, yeah.
Yeah, the name slips my mind. So this is one unique thing that they've decided to do, which I have to say it's really brilliant, and it kind of goes along with many of the things that she created, including the garden back in the day. It's my hope that people will watch it and not push back. I'm still confused as to why you would be mad about promoting healthy eating. I never understood how people were angry about the garden.
No, the garden at the White House.
Yes.
That's okay. First Lady Dr. Joe Biden is working on
getting it back, right?
Yeah, rebuilding the garden.
Which I think is awesome. In fact, I heard that she actually sent Michelle like some produce from the garden.
Which is fair.
Which is fabulous.
That's cool.
We don't know what the last occupant did. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of like really cool things that would come from like the Bidens, like, what they could bring to the program, or the, like we said, the Obamas, the, Laura and George W. Bush. I would love to see what kind of Texas flavors they have. Even back to the Clintons. And like you said, we'll see what 45 brings to the table, if any. But yeah, I would love to see like a global initiative and have that through the eyes of children.
Well, the healthy eating, I think this is one of many things. So I wish Michelle and Waffles and Mochi.
Waffles.
Mochi. I act like I know Michelle. I wish Mrs. Obama and Waffles and Mochi all the best. It'd be cool to talk to them. But yeah, congratulations on the new show. And I will be watching. So
I will also.
So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to wrap things up in a few minutes talking about the best thing we ate this week. And you're listening to the Gourmet Goober podcast. We'll be right back. Hey guys, this is JJ Outlaw.
And T Outlaw.
And we're the co-hosts of the Gourmet Goober podcast. Let me ask you something. Have you guys ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Yes.
when we were starting to get this podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions, right? Like, how do we record an episode? How do we get our shows and all those apps that people like to listen to? And more importantly, how do we make money from the podcast, right? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple: Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're reading this ad, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love Anchor. Anchor has made it really simple to start the Gourmet Goober podcast. It's been a great thing to use, and Big Daddy's a big fan.
Yes, I am.
So if you wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, just go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me, Big Daddy, and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. We can't wait to hear your podcast. Hey everyone, this is JJ Outlaw.
And T Outlaw.
And we are back with the Gourmet Goober podcast. We are back with the last segment of our show called The Best Thing We Ate This Week. That's when Big Daddy and I go over our favorite recipes, hole in the walls, franchise restaurants, places that you need to know, and that we are happy to share all the good news about. As always, we remind our audience, if there's something that you would like to share, especially in the middle of this pandemic, it's so very important that we do our part to keep local restaurants going. So if there's a restaurant you'd like to feature, just email us at thegourmetgoober@gmail.com and write us and tell us about the best thing you ate this week, and we may read your letter on the show. So this week, as always, we start with Big Daddy. And what was the best thing you ate since we were last on the show?
Previously, I had gone off the board with my selection, and I once again will go a little differently.
Okay.
As opposed to doing pizza from a restaurant, this time actually was, one, it was a frozen dish. Two, it involves something that I'm not usually partaking of. And three, it actually comes from a delivery service that the Gourmet Goober hooks up.
Oh, really? Which one? There's a couple. What is it? Because I know there's a couple that I order from, and I can tell you where it's from.
Well, my selection this week was actually, it was actually tamales.
Oh, the lamb tamales! That was the best thing you ate this week?
Yes.
It's always a surprise, you guys. We don't talk about it beforehand.
Yes. My selection were lamb tamales, and is interesting to me because I'm not usually like a very big lamb person. Didn't eat a whole lot of it growing up, but every once in a while, you just have a hankering for something different. And, I'm always into pretty cool meats. So the Goober just happened to pick up from, what's the name of the company?
Oh, it's the company that we order stuff from called Imperfect Foods.
Correct.
Yes.
And I just happened to come across this in our freezer, and I said, let me try out these nice little tamales. Usually, I'm also not like a very big tamale person. Usually, I'm into of course, I'm a big taco guy, goofy like me. But I said, let me try these tamales out, see how they go. And especially with them being lamb tamales, I knew it was going to be something completely different than what I was used to. And weirdly enough, after hooking them up, putting a little seasoning with them, it actually turned out to be absolutely delicious.
We were fighting over the last one, you guys.
Yes, we were.
Well, let me tell you something. And let me also say they are not a sponsor. So I'm not paid to say what I'm about to say. But I actually am in love with Imperfect Foods. And if you guys haven't tried it, it's a little company. And what they do is that they ship produce, they ship meats, They ship like dairy products, meat alternatives if you happen to be vegetarian.
Vegetation.
Vegetarian.
Okay.
Well, I guess if you were like, I don't know, Swamp Thing, you're vegetation too. But if you're vegetarian or vegan, they deliver those choices. The idea behind Imperfect Foods and the reason why I started ordering from them recently is from my time working with an organization that deals with social justice. And one of the things that I learned was just how much waste that we as a country and a society usually waste when it comes to produce and meats and things like that, but particularly produce, if it doesn't look perfect. So the idea is that aesthetically, there's a certain way that we look for like carrots and, radishes and different veggies to look like before a farmer sends it on to the grocery store. And there's so much of the stuff that gets left behind because they know it doesn't sell. So what Imperfect Foods does is they come in and say, hey, we will take your perfectly great produce off your hands. So that way it doesn't get tossed or, gets put in a place where no one can consume it. And the really great thing is you can order it so it comes every week. We get ours every 2 weeks. The base program allows you to get produce. And again, it's perfectly fine produce. Like one time we got a carrot and remember it was like it almost looked like a double helix, the carrot. It was
like
weird
some
the way
weird
it grew.
DNA experiments.
It was a rare DNA experiment. It really was a carrot. But it looks like there were two carrots that must have fused together and they just twisted around each other. So it got like a big carrot. It was perfectly fine. It was a carrot. Sometimes that happens in nature. If you've ever had a garden, every once in a while you pull out that one thing that's like, what the heck? But it's still great. It grew that way. So the whole idea is that you will get, as the base part of the actual box, really great produce that, may not look aesthetically pleasing, but it still makes a great meal. And I like it because it kind of forces us to be creative with our cooking.
Correct.
So, I've gotten a lot of vegetables that we don't normally eat every day, but regardless, it allows us to look for recipes like, oh, wow, how can I put this cauliflower together or things like that. It's wonderfully healthy as well because the food is in season so that you know that it's something really good and nourishing for you. And if you do happen to be a meat eater, oh my gosh, you foodies out there, dude, their meat section, we have been eating like literal kings, right? Because one of the great things they offer is like heirloom chickens. And so you can get like a whole heirloom chicken, which is usually like ridiculously expensive, at a pretty reasonable price. In fact, one of the cool things they offer that I've made and I have told many people about is they offer like this spatchcock chicken. And if you're not familiar, spatchcock is when it's like a whole chicken and they take out the backbone, the back area, so it lays flat, right? But it's a really great way to cook your chicken because it allows it to cook evenly. For those of you with small ovens, like we have a small oven, it just fits perfectly in there. It allows everything to just remain deliciously juicy on both sides.
They Taylor Swifted a chicken.
Dude,
just took all the back out of it. They took all the back out of it. But at the same time, yeah, they laid it flat.
Yes, they do lay it flat.
Yes.
So you can get a really great, if you're like me who have tried to spatchcock a chicken and it's really hard, you can actually get it from them. But they do offer a lot of specialty stuff as well, like the lamb tamales one time. Or, gosh, what else did we get that was really great from them? We got that lamb roast, I think, from them too, right?
Yeah, they are pretty decent with their lamb portions.
Yeah. But if you're a foodie like us and love heirloom chicken, dude, get the over to Imperfect Foods. It's really great.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that was the best thing you ate this week. That sounds really great. And the lamb tamales, which I think is a specialty item, so I don't think they have it every time. But
so
yeah,
basically, I looked into it.
You looked into it.
Cool.
Can I also just say before we go to mine, my particular choice, the other thing I like about them is that, to be honest, we've been ordering them for what, like 6 months or so?
Has it been 6 months?
Maybe off and on.
Okay.
Because I know there's been some weeks that we've canceled, but and you can get boxes for like a family. You know, there's just the two of us, as for two people. But occasionally, I would say twice within that 6 months, they've been a slight error in the order. And I've reached out to them on customer service. And I have to say, they are really, really quick and responsive. They've been incredible.
They're pretty good with you. Probably because you put the fear of God in them. Don't
say that. That is not true.
Okay, maybe they just know you. They know the goober, and then they're like, okay, we gotta get on the act right.
No. They have been really responsive. In fact, with the last order, they even texted me after and it's like, hey, we're just checking in. Are you so happy with us? And that's actually pretty groovy. A lot of companies don't do that or don't have the resources to do that because of the Rona. So kudos to them for doing that. So yeah, lamb tamales and Perfect Foods. I will go ahead and put the link to them in the show notes. So I can't guarantee you guys you'll get the lamb tamales, but I can guarantee you will probably find something really cool from them. Like this week, oh my gosh, one more thing before we jump on. And actually, you know what? I've changed my mind for the best thing I ate this week.
You changed your mind mid-sentence?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let's roll with this one.
So what I was going to say was my choice for the best thing I ate this week was going to be this recipe that I made, and I'll put the link to the recipe as well. Another food ordering service that we use gave us an opportunity to get beef cheeks, which sounds really grody, but they're really good. And it's the basis of what people traditionally use to make barbacoa. And I was so excited. I was like, yes, we can make barbacoa like legit, right?
That's right, Vinny Barbacoa.
So we made barbacoa tacos, and they were really, really good. And I'll provide the recipe. But
oh yeah, baby.
I was thinking the best thing I ate this week, actually, now that I think about it, comes from
Hey, lamb tamales was my choice. You can't jump on it.
No, I'm not gonna say the same thing.
Okay.
But it's from the same company. Well, no, it's technically not from the same company.
Okay, which direction are we going? This is a love roller coaster?
I ordered it from Imperfect Foods, but it's actually made by a company called La Boulangerie, right?
Was it bologna?
No, it's not bologna.
Hey, it sounds like bologna to me.
It is not bologna, I promise you. Okay, La Boulangerie is a French bakery and cafe. They're actually, believe it or not, based out of Chicago. You know what? They have like a store, and you can pick up. Oh no, actually, you know what? They have a place in Chicago. They're based out of San Francisco. I misspoke. So you can find them in Chicago. You can find them in San Francisco. It's a restaurant. It's a bakery. They focus on French food, and you know how much I love French food.
Pinky finger in the air.
Exactly.
With the French food.
But they have this thing called Le Boulangerie croissant toast.
Once again, sounds like bologna bread.
What it is, okay, you guys, it's like a loaf of bread, but the bread is actually it's like a loaf of sliced croissants.
Once again, pinky finger in the air.
So each loaf, each slice, it's really thick. So if you wanted to use it to make French bread, French toast or anything like that, it's very thick, so it'll hold up to that, like put it in the batter and everything. But it's also has these flaky. It's hard to describe. It's very flaky, the texture wise. So it literally is like biting into a slice of bread with like the texture and the buttery taste of a croissant. And usually, you can find this online. In fact, I first learned about this croissant bread, and I have been obsessing over trying it from Facebook and Instagram, where I'm in a lot of foodie groups, and there are people who are like eating the lingerie bread. And
I thought you hated Facebook.
I still hate Facebook.
Okay.
But as I explained before, there's still some groups that I'm part of in Facebook.
Okay, continue.
So the
bologna bread.
Usually it is not the bologna bread. Stop it, you're throwing me off.
Continue.
Usually the bread itself is hella expensive. Like you can get it for like up to $10 for a loaf. But in Imperfect Foods, a loaf of this specialty bread is under $7. So when I placed the order, I was like, dude, I have to like try this bread. And we got it today, and I tried it today, and I made something hella simple, right? I just made an open faced peanut butter and jelly sandwich on this bread. And when I tell you that I felt like I was just laying back in a cafe in France, just biting into this, it was just so heavenly. And the buttery flavor of the bread really took it up a notch for the peanut butter and the blueberry jam. When I tell you, baby, it was everything. It was everything.
It was everything.
It was really good. So if you happen to have a chance to get your hands on it, and I'll put a link on it as well, please do. It's worth it. It's delicious. Loved it. I'm going to like hoard every slice of it.
Wait a minute.
It's well worth it.
How much did you pay for this bread?
We're not going to talk about that.
Wait a minute. And when you ate this bread that you're not going to tell me how much you paid for it. Because I feel like Julius from like Everybody Hates Chris right now. Were you wearing a beret?
Maybe.
Did you put some brie or some kind of special, I don't know, French cheese on it?
Well, I do have some spreadable goat cheese I was going to try on it tomorrow.
Are you planning on at least sharing some of this special croissant bread?
Well, I was going to make you some French toast with it.
You're going to make me some French toast?
Yes.
Okay. I'm willing. She might let me have one slice.
Two
slices. I feel special now. I feel loved.
Okay, so now that we have embarrassed ourselves in front of our listeners, Big Daddy, just wrapping up today's show, where can they find you?
You can find me, T Outlaw, on Twitter at T Outlaw. That's TOUTLAW. And on Instagram at T Outlaw Josie Wells. And if I can say on my way out the door, with everything going on, the craziness, I would like to give a shout out and pray for my folks in Texas, Louisiana, and just all over the country that's going through this weird winter.
Okay. That's it. Well, and I concur everything that you just said. I hope everyone is safe and warm and dry. Right now, you can find me, JJ Outlaw, on Twitter at JJ Outlaw. You can find me on Instagram at Gourmet Goober. Oh, and speaking of Instagram, one extra thing. When I'm on Instagram, when you follow me on Instagram, just so you know that I've been asked to be a new ambassador. So for a couple of things, one is everlasting comfort. So you will actually see, you probably have already seen it on Instagram, where I just wanted to say thank you to those guys again. They're a new sponsor
Thank
of
you.
ours. They gave me probably my new favorite thing, which is this incredible plush bath pillow. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, learn more about it. There's a link to our new sponsor, Everlasting Comfort, where I think you can save 20%?
Yes.
Yeah, by using the code Gourmet Goober. And I'll put that in the notes as well. But yeah, you can follow me there, and I guess I'm a new Instagram influencer.
Keep it real. She will be the one on Instagram with her special pillow eating a croissant.
No. A croissant toast. Get it right.
Oh, excuse you. Okay. 10 a.m.
Seriously, you guys, we know the weather out there is crazy, so please be safe, stay warm, and until next time, thank you so much for listening to the Gourmet Goober, and we will catch you in 2 weeks?
Hopefully, yes. Lord willing, 2 weeks.
No more technical difficulties, but until then, you guys, happy eating.
Happy eating.